Good day, everyone.
Good morning,
Good day
ma'am.
po.
Good afternoon,
Good
rather.
afternoon, ma'am.
So, good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm good.
We're doing
I'm
great,
good.
ma'am.
So, that's good to hear. So, today we'll be having a new lesson. So, as you see on your screens, we are going to talk about the present simple negative. And in this lesson, you will encounter the negative contractions don't and doesn't. So, last time we have the present simple affirmative, correct?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes
Okay.
po.
Before we proceed to our lesson in the present simple negative, let me first present our learning objectives. So, in the course of the lesson, the students are expected to recognize the structure of present simple negative. Second, analyze sentences to extract the rules on the use of the negative contractions. Third, identify the problems that may occur in the application of the rules. And lastly, participate in the mini task. Oh, sorry. Participate in the mini. Sorry for that. And lastly, participate in the mini task within the lesson. So, again, the present simple negative. The present simple tense in its negative form is used to deny something about the subject. So, you may be asking, how would we form a negative sentence in English using the present simple tense? So, we do this by adding the negative contractions don't and doesn't before the main verb. So don't is actually composed of two words. It is the standard contraction for do not. So do is an auxiliary verb or a helping verb, while not can be considered as an adverb that negates the meaning of the modified verb. But together, they are used as an auxiliary, especially in the present simple negative. Now, the same explanation applies to the word doesn't. So it is the shortened term for does not. And by the way, class, in spoken English, we normally use the shortened terms rather than the long forms. So instead of saying do not or does not, we usually say doesn't or don't. So is that clear, class?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes
Yes,
po, ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay, so for you to further understand our lesson for today, let us look into the structure of the present simple negative. So we have here this pattern. So in the beginning of the sentence, we usually found the subject. So the subject here is represented by the letter S. So the subject is followed by the auxiliary verbs don't or doesn't. And the auxiliary verb is then followed by the main verb. The ellipsis here indicates that there could be more grammatical items in the sentence. So I hope you remember this structure because we are going to encounter a lot of examples that uses this particular pattern. So did you understand that? Is that clear? So again, we have the subject
Yes, ma'am.
and then don't or doesn't and then the main verb. Okay, so we shall move on to this example. So we have here the sentence, he doesn't watch scary movies. So, Jeff, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me which word from this sentence is the subject?
Ma'am, the pronoun he is the subject.
That is correct. So, in this sentence, we have he as the subject. Thank you, Jeff. How about the negative contraction used or the auxiliary verb? Yes, Isaac.
Yes, po, ma'am.
What is the negative contraction used in the sentence?
The negative construction using is doesn't.
That is correct. So the auxiliary verb is doesn't. So we have the subject he, and it is followed by the auxiliary verb doesn't. How about the word watch? What is it? Yes, Miss Young.
Yes, ma'am. The auxiliary verb comes before the principal or main verb.
So that is correct. The auxiliary verb comes before the main verb, and our main verb in this case is the verb watch. That is correct. And also we have the object scary movies. So is that clear, class?
Yes, mom.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Yes.
okay, again, the subject in this sentence is he. The auxiliary verb is doesn't. The main verb is watch, and the object in this sentence is scary movies. So let us have another example. Athletes don't skip trainings. So, Jeff,
Yes, mom.
can you label the words according to the pattern in
Okay,
the present
okay,
tense?
ma'am.
Okay.
So the subject in this sentence is athletes. The auxiliary verb used is don't. Then skip is the main verb, and the last is the word trainings is the object.
Okay, so thank you, Jeff. So Jeff is correct. Athletes is our subject in this sentence, and it is followed by the auxiliary verb don't, and then it is followed by the main verb skip and then the object training. So very good. So this is how we group the words in the previous example according to the structure of the present simple negative. And now that we are familiar with the pattern that occurs in the present simple negative, we should know that the sentence written below the table is wrong. Do you agree with me that this
Yes, po,
sentence?
ma'am.
Okay, so in the structure of the present simple negative, we talked about the subject and then auxiliary and then the verb and then the object. But the sentence here doesn't have an auxiliary. Do you observe it? Do you observe the same thing? So
Non.
the thought of the sentence isn't complete because when we read it, she not know how to swim. So it sounds unusual to not have an auxiliary verb before um, the word not. So to be able to correct this sentence, we should attach the auxiliary verb does to the word not. So it becomes she doesn't know how to swim. So did you get that? Is that clear, class?
Yes, mom.
So now, since we are done discussing the patterns or the structure of the present simple negative, we are going to talk about the use of the auxiliary verbs don't and doesn't. So how do we really use, or when do we use the word don't, or when do we use the word doesn't? Now, I want you to look at this slide. So the direction instructs us to group these sentences into two columns, into column A and column B. We must look for the similarities in terms of the negative contractions used. Now I'm going to give you 3 minutes to read, analyze, and group these sentences. And afterwards, I will be calling some of you to fill in the columns, the column A and the column B. Is that clear, class?
Yes, mom.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you may start working now. Are you done? Are you done grouping the sentences?
Yes,
Yes, po,
ma'am.
ma'am.
I'm done.
Jeff, are you done?
Yes, ma'am.
How about you, Esther?
Yes, ma'am. I'm done. Finish.
Okay, how about you, Isaac?
Yes, po, ma'am. I'm done.
Okay, so we shall move on to this slide. So after reading, analyzing the sentences, um which sentences do you think belongs to column A? Yes, Jeff?
Yes, ma'am. The sentences that belong to column A are the sentence number one,
Correct,
sentence number two,
correct,
sentence number four,
correct.
sentence number seven, and sentence number 10.
Thank you, Jeff. So Jeff got all the correct answers for column A. We have the following sentences. So June doesn't sleep late. She doesn't look healthy. He doesn't eat chocolate. Nick doesn't exercise regularly. And it doesn't move. So that's a very nice observation, Jeff. Thank you very much. Now for column B. Which sentences belong to column B? Yes, Esther?
Yes, ma'am. Um, sentence 3, sentence 5, sentence 6, sentence 8, and sentence 9 belong to the other column.
Very good, Esther. So she also got all the correct answers for column B. We have the sentences. So they don't follow the rules. I don't sneak out of the house. You don't see the bigger picture. We don't allow enemies in our land. And the singers don't skip their vocal warm up. So very good. So let us go back to the column A. So Isaac, are you there? What have you noticed about the subjects in the sentences in column A? Isaac?
Yes, yes, po, ma'am. I'm noticed the subject in the column A is she and he.
Yes, that is correct. So we also have the subject June and Nick. So in short, we have singular subjects in in the sentences in column A. Isn't that right? We have the singular nouns June and Nick. We also have the third person singular pronouns, the she, he, and it. So very good, Isaac. Thank you very much. How about the other obvious similarity among the sentences in column A? Jeff, can you guess it?
Yes, ma'am. The In column B, the subjects of the sentence consist of a plural noun and pronouns, and they are followed by the word don't.
Yes, that is also correct. But going back to column A, we notice that every singular subjects used in column A is immediately followed by the word doesn't. So that is our observation for column A. While in column B, Jeff is correct. We have plural subjects, just like the singers, and also the plural pronouns we and they. And also we have the first person singular I, and also the second person singular pronoun you. So, and Jeff is also correct that these subjects are immediately followed by the auxiliary verb. So, from our observations from column A and column B, we can infer the rules on the use of the word doesn't and the word don't. So if the subject is a singular noun, or if it uses he, she, or it as its subject, then it must be followed by the word doesn't. On the other hand, if the subject is a plural noun, or if it uses the pronouns I, you, we, and they, then the auxiliary verb that must be used is don't. Is that clear? So wait, let me repeat the rules. So if the subject is a singular noun, or if it uses the pronouns he, she, or it, then the auxiliary verb to be used is the word doesn't. On the other hand, if the subject is a plural noun, or if it uses the pronouns I, you, we, and they, then the auxiliary verb that must be used is the word don't. Is that clear, class? Did you understand the rule?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes po, ma'am.
very good. So let me call someone to repeat the rules once again. Let me call Jeff. Can you
Yes, ma'am.
the rules?
Okay, ma'am. The rules in forming present simple negative says that if the subject is a singular noun, or if the subject uses the pronoun it, he, or she, then we should use doesn't. On the other hand, if the subject is a plural noun, or if it uses the pronouns I, you, we, and they, then the auxiliary verb don't must be used.
Okay, very good, Jeff. So is everything clear about the rules?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let us have more examples. So I want you to look at these examples. So let us go through them one at a time. So in the first sentence, we have David doesn't eat bitter gourd. So we have here the subject David, which is a name of a person that may refer to a man or a boy. And then notice that the auxiliary verb that we used is the word doesn't. And then it is followed by the main verb it, which is in its base form. So um, earlier we discussed that doesn't is made up of two words, right? So it is made up of the word does and the word not. Does is actually the modified form of the verb do. So we just added es at the end of do to make it agree with the subject it pertains to. So in this case, the subject is David, which is a singular noun. So it is just right to that we use the auxiliary verb doesn't, because does is um, the correct form of the verb to be used in this case. Is that understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so how about the second sentence? Can you read it, Esther?
Yes, ma'am. Second sentence. He doesn't like vegetables.
Okay, thank you. So can you identify the subject, the negative contraction, and the main verb, please, Esther?
Ma'am, the subject in the sentence is he. The negative contraction used is doesn't, and the main verb is like.
That's correct. So again, we applied the rule in the present simple negative. Because the subject is he, then we used the word doesn't. And also the base form of the verb like. So do you have any question? Any clarification?
None, ma'am.
None,
Okay,
ma'am.
Let us proceed to another set of sentences. So we have here this sentence: Alexis and Chloe don't play volleyball. So, Mr. Isaac, what have you noticed about the subject used in the first sentence?
Ma'am, the subject is more than one.
That is correct. Very good, Isaac. So, in this example, we have not one, but two subjects. So we have Alexis and Chloe, which makes our subject a plural subject. That is why we followed it with the auxiliary verb don't. Is that understood? Because we have two subjects, which makes the subject plural, we use the word don't. Is that clear, class?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So very good. How about the second sentence? Can you read it, Esther?
Yes, ma'am. They don't enjoy sports.
Okay, so what did you observe about the subject and the negative contraction used?
Ma'am, it follows the rule that if the subject is plural, then don't must be placed after the subject.
Okay, thank you very much, Esther. That's correct. We have here the subject they, and we followed it with the word don't because they is a plural pronoun, isn't it? So, so very good. Any questions so far, guys? Do you have any clarification?
None so far, ma'am.
None, ma'am.
And so far, ma'am.
We must proceed to the next slide. So, as you can see, we have here two sentences. The first sentence is an affirmative sentence. So let me read it. John drinks milk every day. So we notice that the verb used is in its S form, drinks. So on the other hand, we have the negative sentence. John doesn't drink milk. So what are your observations about on the two sentences? So as you can see, we have here um, two sentences that use the subject John as its subject, the singular subject John. However, these sentences differ in the structure. So in the affirmative sentence, the subject is immediately followed by the S form of the verb, which is drinks. While in the negative sentence, the subject is followed by an auxiliary verb, and then the auxiliary verb is followed by the main verb. So you notice that in affirmative sentences, we usually put an S when the subject that the verb pertains to is singular. However, in negative sentences, we do not observe the application of the same rule because in the given sentence here, um, we did not put an S, just like what is shown in the illustration. Did you observe it as well, guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so since we did not put an S, the reason behind that is because in negative sentences, um, the singularity or plurality is indicated by the auxiliary verb, which is why instead of putting it in on the main verb drink, we instead attach it to the auxiliary verb. Look at this. John doesn't drink. Did you observe that, guys?
Yes, ma'am.
So we are not going to put an S to both doesn't, and drinks because it would make our sentence wrong. So we omit the S from the main verb and then we transfer it to the auxiliary verb. Is that clear? So it makes our negative sentence, John doesn't drink milk. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so do you have any question, clarification, or you want to?
None so far, ma'am.
Okay, so let us practice. I'm going to be showing you a dialogue. The we have here an affirmative sentence, and then what you're gonna do is that you're gonna give me the negative counterpart of that sentence using the structure, the rules that we have studied. Is that clear?
Yes po,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am, clear.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Jeff,
Yes, ma'am.
the affirmative sentence, and then give me the answer for this one.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
I like I like sweetened coffee. How about you? Mom, the answer is I don't like sweetened coffee.
That is correct. So we inserted the auxiliary verb don't after the subject and before the main verb. Did you notice that, guys?
Yes, mom.
So from I like sweetened coffee to I don't like sweetened coffee. Okay, let us proceed to the other one. My brother reads this book. Isaac, can you answer this?
Yes, ma'am. My
Okay,
brother, my brother reads this book. The answer is my brother doesn't read that book.
okay, that is correct. Again, we inserted the auxiliary verb doesn't after the singular subject, and we followed it with the main verb, which is read. So, from my brother reads this book to my brother doesn't read that book. Now, we also changed the word this to that because the the girl on the left is pertaining to the book that she is handling, and then when the other person told the same thing, she referred to it by using the word that, so that book. So okay, let us proceed. We have here this scenario and dialogue. Miss Esther, can you answer this one?
Yes, ma'am. Um, I want to school. I walk to school every morning.
What is the
Now,
answer?
the negative form of this sentence is I don't walk to school every morning.
That is correct. So again, we use the auxiliary verb don't and place it after the subject and before the main verb. So how about this one? My father plays guitar. Yes, Jeff? What is the answer for this one?
Yes, mom. The answer is my father doesn't play guitar.
Okay, that's correct. So very good. All of you got all the correct answers. So again, another set of mini tasks. So fill in the blanks with the correct subject, negative contraction, and main verb. Now we have here two options uh, that are enclosed in the parentheses. So what you're going to do is that you're going to choose between the two words, to make the sentence correct or grammatically correct. Is that clear, class? So
Yes, mom.
in the first item, we have blank doesn't smile unless he is in a really good mood. Now we have here the pronouns he and we. Now, what pronouns should be used to make the sentence correct? Isaac, are you there?
Yes po, ma'am.
Okay, so can you answer the first item? What pronouns should we use? Is it he or we? Recall the rules that we have studied earlier.
My answer is hey.
That is correct. Very good, Isaac. So we have he as the subject. So he doesn't smile unless he is in a really good mood. So we also have a clue here because the pronoun he is repeated in the sentence. So how about the second item? So professional dancers blank forget their choreography. So we have here auxiliary verbs doesn't and don't. What should we use to make the sentence correct? Yes, Esther,
Yes, ma'am. I think use don't.
you're correct. So don't is the correct answer. So to make it right, to make the sentence complete, we added the word don't because it pertains to the plural subject dancers. So we now have the sentence professional dancers don't forget their choreography. How about the third item? Mrs. Taylor doesn't blank her students to feel bored in class. We have here the verb wants and the verb want. Now, Jeff, what should we use? What verb form should we use? The S form of the
My answer, ma'am, is want.
That's correct. Because remember the rule, um, the verb that follows an auxiliary should be in its base form. So in this case, want comes after the auxiliary verb doesn't, which is why it is in its base form. So Mrs. Taylor doesn't want her students to feel bored in class. How about the next item? Um, Isaac, can
Yes, po,
you
ma'am.
answer this one?
Yes, I don't I don't feel comfortable around a new guy. I choose don't.
That's correct. Because according to the rule that we discussed earlier, if we used the pronoun I as the subject, then we follow it with the verb don't. So I don't feel comfortable around the new guy. And the last number, Jeff, can you answer it? We have women blank conform to sexist standards of men. So we have here the auxiliary verbs doesn't and don't. So Jeff, what auxiliary should we use to make the sentence correct?
I think, ma'am, the answer is don't.
That is correct because women is a plural noun. So uh, since it is a plural noun, we followed it with the word don't and then the base form of the verb. So clear about our topic about this the structure, the pattern, the rules in the present simple negative, guys.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so here are the important points to remember. So again, the pattern for the present simple negative, the subject followed by the auxiliary verb doesn't or don't, and the main verb. Um, so in the pattern, we should, in observing the pattern and the structure of the present simple negative, we should watch out for some confusions like this. She not like music, like the one we discussed earlier, because this is an incorrect structure of the present simple negative because it lacks the auxiliary. So watch out for that problem. So and the next one is the use of the auxiliary verb doesn't. Um, when we use he, she, it, or any singular noun as a subject, then we must use the auxiliary verb doesn't. And we should also watch out for some confusions, just like because some students add s in the main verb, and we should remember the rule that any verb that follows an auxiliary should be in its base form. So you should watch out for that confusion or problem. And finally, we use the auxiliary verb don't if the subject is I, you, we, they, or any plural noun. So um, that's it for today, class. I hope you learned something. So thank you very much for participating and listening. Goodbye, class.
Good night, ma'am.
Goodbye,
Thank
mom.
you.
Goodbye, ma'am.